Can neuroscience truly explain the mind? Modern science has taught us to see our inner world in the language of circuits and chemicals. Dopamine is linked to reward, serotonin to mood, the prefrontal cortex to self-control, and the amygdala to fear. Emotional experiences such as shame can be associated with increased activation in the anterior cingulate cortex, and depression is often described as overactivity in the default mode network. Even the sense of being a unified self is traced to the interaction among the frontal lobe, hippocampus, and amygdala. These discoveries show that emotion is not only felt but structured and observable, yet the mind does not move on neurons alone. If two people face the same situation, why does one feel guilt while another feels shame? If two people experience trauma, why does one recover and another falls again and again? Neuroscience can point to different sensitivities, stress responses, or drug effects, but it cannot tell us what an emotion means to a person. The mind is not only a mechanism, it is an interpreter. It remembers, assigns value, and creates meaning. Reductionism has brought many benefits: measurable diagnosis, targeted medication, and evidence-based therapy. But when we view the mind only as circuitry, we risk losing the individuality of experience. Emotion is not just a reaction, it is a narrative shaped by history, language, and relationships. Even identical neural patterns can express different inner worlds. Understanding the mind requires convergence. Neuroscience reveals the foundation of emotion. Psychology reveals its structure. Philosophy asks where it belongs in human existence. To truly understand the mind, we must move from mapping neurons to understanding stories. The mind begins in biology, but it does not end there. It is completed in meaning, memory, and narrative.
We were taught that the mind lives inside the brain. Neuroscience mapped emotions to circuits and chemicals: dopamine for reward, serotonin for mood, the prefrontal cortex for self-control, the amygdala for fear, love, sorrow, and trauma now appear as activation patterns on an fMRI scan. It once seemed as though the deepest aspects of humanity were finally becoming explainable, yet something essential was missing. The brain may be the stage where emotion is expressed, but it cannot tell us what that emotion means. An activated amygdala For centuries, we have tried to explain the mind. Earlier, it was described as the soul, later, as unconscious drives or learned behavior. Today, we explain it through neuroscience. Dopamine for reward, serotonin for mood, the prefrontal cortex for control, the amygdala for fear. Love, anxiety, and trauma now appear as patterns on brain scans. Yet when we searched the brain for the mind, what we found was only structure, not meaning. The first path claims the mind is fully reducible to neural activity. From this view, sadness is dopamine hypoactivity, shame is coactivation of the ACC and MPFC, and self-blame comes from weak regulation of the amygdala. This approach is practical and has helped develop antidepressants, neuromodulation, and trauma therapies. But as explanations become precise, they also become thin. The brain can tell us how emotion occurs, but not what it means in a life. The second path expands to the whole nervous system. Damasio argues that emotion emerges from brain, body, and visceral sensation. Barrett suggests emotion is a prediction shaped by memory and cultural learning. The same amygdala signal may become fear, irritation, or numbness depending on one's history. This explains why trauma often lives in the body. Yet the question remains, why did this sensation gain this meaning for me? The third path views the mind as a space of interpretation. Chalmers calls this the hard problem, the gap between neural firing and subjective experience. In this view, the mind is narrative, the story through which we understand ourselves. These three paths are not opposed. The brain provides structure, the body shapes how we feel, and life gives emotion significance. The mind begins in neurons, but it is completed in meaning.